Hi there YouTube. I'm just catching up on some old videos, well, the ones that I've missed since I've been offline. I've been incommunicado for a couple of weeks, and yeah, I've got a lot of videos from people to look at. I've also been tagged a couple of times for poetry tags, and I want to respond to those. I don't want to do a poem right now, but I thought I'd just use this video to introduce that, if that's alright. I'm going to be really self-indulgent here, I hope you don't mind, but I want to read one of my own poems. Everybody writes poems, and people don't admit to it as much as they should. I don't write very many poems, and not as many now as I used to, certainly. But I do want to read a poem that I wrote about 20 years ago. Yeah, about 19 or 20 years ago. And I thought I'd just use this video just to contextualize it, tell you what it's about. It's actually a love poem to my wife, and it became a script that I performed a few times as a kind of solo show, and so I'll just do a section of that, I think, just read it out. But it actually came about, the script and the poem came about from a series of love letters and kind of related bits of thinking that I sent to my wife, and then that was my girlfriend at the time, and it came out of that experience, really, because at the time, this is 20 years ago, this is 1990, and 1990 was capital of culture in Glasgow, where I was living at the time, Glasgow in Scotland, and as part of the capital of culture, they had a very extensive theatre programme, including what's called Mayfest, which is a festival that runs in May, and my solo show was part of that festival. And as well as that show in that festival, there was also my wife's theatre company. She used to be with a theatre company in New York called the Wooster Group, and they were performing as part of Mayfest. They were one of the headliners, and she was also doing her solo show because she was in the process of leaving the Wooster Group at that time. And so we were both doing solo shows, and in the program, the kind of information for our different shows was just a few pages apart, and the advertising shot, the publicity shot for the shows, was quite similar. In my wife's photograph, she was holding one of those illuminated globes quite close to her face, and it was like a close-up of that. And my publicity shot was a close-up of my feet standing on a map. So they just look like kind of mirror images of each other, or complementary images to each other. And then by coincidence, I guess, we were both invited to talk on the same, like an after-show discussion that was on one night, so we got introduced that way. And we just basically really hit it off, and fell in love with each other. Anyway, just after Mayfair, she went back to the States, and I stayed in Glasgow. And she was touring all over the place. She was living in California for a while, and then she was down in Mexico, and then back across to New York, where she was staying. And for probably a year or so, we only communicated in a fairly askance way. I mean, at the time I was collecting Dansette record players, which are these big old record players, and collecting lots and lots of vinyl. So I would pick a track from this vinyl collection, play it on my Dansette record player, one of them, and then hold it next to the phone and record it on my wife's answer phone in New York, because she never picked up the phone. She never does still. She always just monitors the answer phone. So I would just fill her answer phone up with scratchy recordings on old Dansette record players, and that was one of the ways of communicating. And I also used to send her love letters, which were kind of mixture of pornography and kind of banalities of living in a small cold country and talking to someone living in a big complicated and occasionally warm country, at least when she was in California or Mexico. So there's a lot of that stuff going on. Anyhow, she started getting work over in Britain and Europe, either kind of artist residencies or little bits of teaching work, or gigs at different places for her solo work. And whenever she came across to do one of those things, I'd go and see her. And so our courtship really basically consisted of meeting in 2- and 3-star hotels in small towns in Britain, we'd go to Leicester, or we'd meet up in Nottingham or Brighton or somewhere like this. Wherever she was doing the thing, I'd zip down there on the train, and we'd have this fantastic weekend in a hotel somewhere. And they were always kind of cheesy, and there was lots of jokes around all that, really. And it was fantastic. It was really great. And then, of course, eventually she decided to move across, and then we did the honest employment thing, and then we had the kids thing, and then we did the mortgage thing, and now we are 20 years later doing this thing, really. So that's the background. But as I say, just after she moved across, we were doing solo shows, and I was making this new solo show, and I used these love letters that I'd sent her, and some of the influences, like some of the music from the vinyl I'd sent down the phone line to her, and some stuff to do with being in different places and different time zones, and stuff to do with being in love and then being apart. So it was all to do with that, really. So what am I talking about? Oh yeah, so that's that really. So that would be my tagged poem. I'll try and do some of it tonight. I've got to try and remember it, I'll be honest with you. It's a long time since I did this, and I'm going to have to try and remember it. I might even have a file somewhere on my computer, so I'm going to do some searching so I can find it. But if I can't find it, I'll do what I can from memory, or a little bit of it from memory. Hope it's not too boring. Thanks very much.